Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I have a new project ready to go. I'll be setting up a small little tank for isopods. Some of you might know them as roly-polies. I have my aquarium here, landscape matting, moss, organic topsoil without any fertilizers, Zoom at Eco Earth, small pieces of red lava rock that I'll be using, some wood I found, as well as a bunch of leaves. I'll provide links in the description of everything that I used, and it's time to get started with this build. First thing, of course, that we have to do is cut open the fish tank, just so we can start putting things inside. Isopods are really easy. You don't necessarily need something like a glass aquarium for them. For this one species that I got, I did want to make a little nicer display tank, but a plastic container that is food grade safe should suffice. Before we continue with the actual build, I wanted to slightly sterilize some of the wood that I'm going to be using. Some people choose to bake the wood at a low temperature for a few hours. Some people dip them into boiling hot water for a while. For me, I'm simply going to be running some hot water over it just to remove whatever diseases or pathogens might be on the surface. After that, we're pretty much ready to start. What I'm going to do, and it's more of a personal preference, is use some lava rock to create a drainage layer. I don't want the soil to get soaked once it's put in. A drainage layer is important to prevent that from happening. Lava rock could be a little big. Some people might use ceramic bio balls, but this will work out for me. And as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm creating a gradual slope in the setup, mostly to provide in such a small enclosure varying habitat for the isopods. After putting down a drainage layer, I'm going to use the landscape fabric to create a separation zone between the rock below and the soil above. This separation layer will help prevent the soil from making its way down and mixing with the rock. Off screen, I mixed the Scott's organic soil with Eco Earth. I did about a 50-50 mix. After that, I took a bunch of leaves and I broke them down into smaller pieces, and I'm going to mix it all into the soil just to provide more organic matter in the soil. And after that, we're ready to add the soil into this little enclosure. There's no set correct way of doing this. I'm more experimenting to see how well a mixture of Eco Earth and soil is. If you look online, there's a lot of different suggestions, and everybody has their own system on how to set up soil. Once your substrate is put down to the appropriate level, it's time to decorate the enclosure a little bit. I grabbed a handful of oak leaves, maple leaves, and maybe some hickory leaves, again from outdoors. I'll put them in an enclosure with the moss that may or may not be dead already. I've had this moss for a while. It was sitting in a dark spot, so it may rehydrate and come back to life. It might not. If I see that it doesn't for a little while, I'll consider swapping it out for something a little more fresher. Moss is important to keep a bit of moisture in the enclosure. The leaves we'll use for food for your isopods, as well as provide cover for them. If you look outside, you don't often see isopods running around out in the open. You'll mostly see them buried under logs, hiding under leaves, and so on. The moss you'll want to cover roughly about 10 to 25% of the enclosure. I'll probably adjust the amount of leaves and moss I have later on, but this is just to get us started. And lastly, we're taking that wood that was boiled and we're going to put it into the setup as well. The isopods will very likely use the wood as a source of food as well as cover. So I'm going to do a good job of tucking the wood in under all the leaves and stuff, and we're pretty much done with the setup. Here's the enclosure in its more permanent spot. I'm going to have a very gradual light from a different aquarium shining down onto this tank, but this is pretty much it. The only other thing I'm going to do is put a cover on top to make sure the isopods don't get out, as well as to help maintain humidity. Depending on the species, you'll want between 70 and 80% humidity, but that's all there is to it. And of course, lastly, we have our isopods. I purchased them online from a really nice seller, and I'm just going to put the cup in and let them get out on their own. That's all I have for you all today. I had a fun time setting up this enclosure. If you all have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please let me know in the comments below. Consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.